And welcome back to the Upside Sports Network. Appreciate you guys joining us for night 4 of our fantasy draft anyway. We're drafting a bunch of different teams anyway in both snake and salary cap styles. We use the ESPN format. Check out nights 1, 2, and 3 here on YouTube if you've missed those before. Make sure you hit that subscribe button here on YouTube and follow us on Twitter at UpsideSN. And yet again, thank you once again for joining us tonight. Watching a little bit of college football. Notre Dame winning right now against Ohio State 10-7. Lots of good college football out there for those of you who are waiting for the NFL to get going. I know I am. I'm not a huge fan of college football. I just don't like how technical things are on the professional level. I like how teams are more even. You're not going to have a team going up against say like Alabama going up against, some double-A high school, if you will, or double-A college team. There's like 4 or 5 really high-level colleges out there, and it's just the talent on the field is just not the same, so it's not really competitive for me. Now, the environment in college football, there's nothing like it. I mean, hockey is pretty darn close, but there's nothing like that college football environment. So those of you who watch Friday Night Football in Texas or anywhere in the South, college football, anywhere around the country, there's very few environments that have that type of appeal, and the game that you're watching tonight in Notre Dame and Ohio State is one of them. But back to our point here, we're doing some fantasy football draft for you guys, getting ready for the NFL season. We've done a few snake drafts. You can check those out in night 1, 2, and 3 of our videos as well. You can also check out the salary cap league that we did in night 2. We will do 2 snake drafts tonight and a salary cap league. So this live stream is probably going to go past midnight. Appreciate you guys joining us, but without further ado, let's get started. Alrighty, so as I mentioned before, we do use ESPN.com's Fantasy Football League. I've always done that for 20 years. I just grew up with that type of a system, and I like how they've now taken on PPR leagues anyway over the past, say, 5-6 years anyway. Remember, ESPN Standard Leagues did not have PPR originally. Now they do, so they kind of have your set levels here. Obviously, we're going to play at the pro level. I've played fantasy football for 20 years, so I know what I want to do and how fantasy football works. And then, of course, we want to go with snake draft to kind of start off tonight. We're going to go with draft now. So without further ado, let's get it started and join a league. It's that simple. That's all you have to do to get started. We're the first team in this league. We'll quickly see others join. We're going to go ahead and change to the upside, abbreviation up, and we'll check in on these fantasy football leagues throughout the year anyway. So for those of you just joining us, appreciate you guys hitting that subscribe button, hitting that like button. Really gained quite a few subscribers over the last couple of days. Thank you guys for your participation. Couple minutes here before the lobby gets going. We'll see how quickly this fills up, though. Only got 3 in there so far. So again, remember with snake drafts, obviously Jonathan Taylor's always been the #1 pick. Pretty much the entire preseason. He's done nothing to dissuade people of that. I will caution people to always keep in mind there are injury risks, but you don't want that to be the key reason for a deterrent in a player who's shown no injury history, and Jonathan Taylor fits that mold. Now we'll see how things go for Jonathan Taylor this year, but of course everybody's expecting him to have a monster year, very steady at the running back position. There's a lot of good running backs though at the top of the board. There's some pieces that you can find later on in drafts, so don't just initially think, oh, I got to get this one player or else. There's a lot of different ways you can build a team. Mentioned last night that the consensus from people who play fantasy football is that the worst pick in the first round, and just the way the draft works out, is the #6 pick. Now we had the #4 pick last night, we've had the #7, and we've had the #9 in the drafts that we've done with you guys here on YouTube anyway. But we'll see how this one goes. I'm kind of hoping we get the #6 pick just so we can see how it falls. Myself, I like to have back-to-back picks in a draft. So I like to either be really early, say pick 1, 2, or 3, or pick 8, 9, and 10. I really like those back-to-back picks because you can differentiate how your draft is going to go fairly easily from both spots. Plus, you can kind of line up your draft a little bit easier as well. Last night's draft, everybody was pretty sound in their draft strategy as far as the other members in that league anyway. We'll see how this one goes. This league filled up in literally like 2 minutes, so this should be good. It should be a very active draft, hopefully not too many auto picks. But we didn't see quarterbacks fly off the board early like we have in the past. We didn't see defenses go in the 5th round. We didn't see anybody reach for a DeAndre Hopkins in the 4th or anything like that. Draft room is now open. Let's get it started. Ah, so close. We're going to get the 5th pick. A little tough for me. Again, I like to have picks at either end of the draft. This one's right smack dab in the center. So, just looking at the draft board, Taylor and McCaffrey are assuredly going to be gone by my pick, so I'm not even going to worry about them. So that leaves me with probably one of the top 5 receivers, or top 3 receivers, Kupp, Jefferson, and Chase. To me, Chase is a clear rung below those top 2 options. Just because T. Higgins is in that offense, I still think Ja'Marr Chase has the upside to be a #1, but I think they're much more likely to be either Cooper Kupp or Justin Jefferson as long as all 3 are healthy. I think those 2 guys have a much clearer path to better target share, more touchdowns, usage, those kinds of things, which is why I value those 2 a little bit above them, or above Ja'Marr Chase. Now, as far as the next best running back, Austin Eckler. If he's there at 5, I'd be hard-pressed not to take him. In our draft last night, we saw somebody reach a little bit with their 2nd pick to get Derrick Henry. He is back and healthy. Alrighty, got about a minute here before the draft. Just looking at where my picks are likely to fall in the 2nd round. One thing I've noticed about drafting picks 4, 5, 6, 7 is that usually your 2nd round pick, you're either going to have to reach a little bit for, say, a Travis Kelce type, or if somebody falls to you, which I really hope Deebo Samuel falls to me. I've got him to fall a couple of times to me in my first couple of drafts. I think everybody's starting to get wise to that. I think the touches are going to be there for Deebo Samuel this year. I think the touchdown ratio that he had last year even though it was very high, I think it's very likely to be replicated this year with San Francisco. I don't think it's as scary as we all thought it might be as far as the regression. 10 seconds here to the draft. Looks like we're going to have a couple of auto picks in front of us. Other than that, everybody else is in the draft. Not bad. And with the first pick, let's see if it goes chalk. And Jonathan Taylor again goes 1, McCaffrey 2, Kupp 3. My pick is probably going to come down to Eckler or Jefferson, in my opinion. Receivers are tough for me to gauge. I've never really had great success with those middle round receivers, trying to figure out which one's going to strike it rich. I'm usually much better at finding those late round running backs on waivers. So that second and third round pick, I usually try to lock up a good receiver. If I'm able to get Deebo Samuel in the second round, he's probably my favorite target there. Diggs would be a great option. So is Adams, but usually those players are gone by the opportunity or by the time I get to choose them. 40 seconds here for this guy to get into the draft. If I had to guess, Eckler's probably going to go here with the auto draft. And then we'll see Jefferson for me. That Vikings offense is going to be a much more pass-happy offense. And we saw what Justin Jefferson did with a head coach that wanted to run the ball on first, second, third, and fourth down. So Jefferson for me is a surefire top 5 pick. Easy pick for me there. Usually your first round is pretty easy to pick just because you know how everything's going to go unless you see somebody, really reach for somebody. Got a long way to go before these receivers fall to me. But I do have my number 1 target at wideout. So maybe I can skip a wideout in that second round. Kamara is one of the guys I'm avoiding like the plague this year. If you have him on your team this year, I feel sorry for you. I just don't think he's going to be that productive. I worry about injuries. I worry about the off-the-field stuff getting to him, not necessarily as far as a suspension, but just from a mental aspect. I just don't think he's going to be a very effective runner. Now, as far as a patch catching option, he should still rack up a number of catches out of the backfield every single week, but I just don't think he's going to be that 100 yards plus another 40 yards, through the air, that kind of thing. I think you're looking more likely at a 20 carry, 80 yards, with 4 catches and 10 to 15 yards a game, with maybe a touchdown every other week. I'm not very high on Alvin Kamara. Leonard Fournette, same thing, except I think his floor is so much lower. I think there's a chance Fournette loses that job and isn't even in the rotation of running backs by week 10. And that's not what you want from your top 3 or 4 picks. You want those guys to be your fantasy studs that are in there no matter what. There goes Diggs. Got 4 picks left. I got 2 of my receivers still on the board. Now, say those 2 are gone. My next pick is probably Kelsey, just to have that positional advantage. Hey, we just might get lucky. There goes Mixon. I like Swift, but I just don't think I can rely on him yet. He's going to be the number 1 option out of that Lions backfield. like Kennedy's deciding which receiver to go to, if I had to guess. One tight end I'm fading this year is Mark Andrews. If I'm trying to go for an elite tight end, I want Kelce, and then I want Pitts in round 5, 4 or 5 anyway, depending on how the board falls. I like Andrews, but his production with Lamar Jackson as quarterback is spotty at best. The only reason his season was rebounded last year was because of his production he got in the final 5-6 weeks of the season with a backup quarterback under center. Fournette goes really freaking high there. Well, I'm going to have either Adams, Samuel, or Swift left. I might not have to go with Kelce. I'm still hoping Samuel falls to me here. He's the guy I really want at this stage. I think the value is really high for him this year. If I can get a Jefferson Samuel stack, my receivers, I might only draft 4 or 5 receivers and just load up on running backs. But again, a middle of the round pick is very difficult. Please don't take Samuel. We'll see. Wow, and Samuel falls to me. Wow. Samuel, I think, is a top 5 receiver this year. So I'm going to go ahead and easily take Deebo Samuel. Don't like the team of the 49ers, blah, 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 but in fantasy, that don't matter. You go for production, production, and production. There goes Swift, as he should right after that. Now we got about another, 7 picks left with an auto pick in between. So looking at my next pick, if Kelce's still there just for the positional advantage, I go Kelce. If Connor is there, he's the top running back left on my board. The touchdowns he's going to have with that Arizona offense are going to be elite. Last year you saw how many touchdowns he had, and everybody thinks it's a little bit of a fluke. It's not. Arizona, Cliff Kingsbury, while they like to throw the ball between the 20s, when they get down to the red zone, it's almost always a run play, and James Conner is going to be the beneficiary of that. He's no longer going to be splitting time in that backfield. So Connor and Kelce are my next 2 options here. Jones goes a little bit higher. He would have been one of my fallback options. T. Higgins is my wide receiver fallback. I'm hoping one of Kelce and Connor gets there. If not, then we might be looking at Higgins. DJ Moore is a good option as well. I need to start drafting some running backs here in the next few picks. Nick Chubb should have a great year, especially in the second half of the season when Watson gets back. Well, I got 4 picks left, and I'm very likely to lose Kelce for sure by the time the auto pick gets there. I'm just hoping they start reaching for some of these receivers here. We've seen a good run on running backs now. So now hopefully these teams will start shifting their focus to receiver and loading up on them. But I'm set at receiver. I'll take these middle round running backs. Oh, there goes my top choice as far as running back left. James Conner is gone. Well, if Kelce is gone, Higgins is probably the best piece left, but I already have 2 really good receivers. Chubb is probably one of the best running backs left on the board. Pitts is a little too early to draft him, top 25. And there goes Chubb. Well, I'm still hoping for Kelce. I doubt I'll get him. I think he's just going to be a monster as far as catches every single week. I think you're looking at a solid 6 to 8 catches for Travis Kelce every week. And there goes both of the tight ends off the board. Well, my top tight end target is gone. My top running back targets, all of them are gone. There's nobody else really worth reaching this far down in the draft for. So you got to take where the board falls. And right now it's telling me to take a receiver. Keenan Allen is there. Higgins is there. DJ Moore. I like all three of those receivers. One player I'm fading this year is Cam Akers and Saquon Barkley. I don't like either one of them. Various reasons why. I'll get into those in a moment. But T. Higgins, I think, is the guy I'm going to go with here. And now I've locked up 3 elite receivers at the top of the draft. I like the running ability of Deebo Samuel as well, so it gives me a little bit of production there. But I need to start getting some running backs here. So as we get down into round 4 here, there's some good middle round receivers in the 50s, around ADP, or your average, the ESPN rank anyway, around 50. Pierce is still being drafted way low. I still want him more as my third option as far as a running back, but I think now that he's solidified himself as the starter there in Houston, he has running back 2, not just potential, but I think he's pretty much locked himself in as a number 2 running back this year, top 20 guy. Another running back comes off the board. They do realize this is a PPR league, right? All right, just to kind of simplify this, we got about 10 picks until our next. So let's kind of look at the available running backs left on the board. Elliott should have a nice year this year for Dallas. Not that I'm expecting elite ability out of him, but he has the chance to be a top 10 runner just because of the number of carries I think he's going to command in that offense. Jerry says run the ball with Zeke. They're going to run the ball with Zeke. So the opportunity will be there. A couple of running backs I'm fading are still on the board with Cam Akers and David Montgomery. I can't count on ETN just because of the injury history. I just don't want to get burned on it. Breece Hall, he's not going to start the year as the starter in the backfield for the Jets. That's going to go to Michael Carter. And I think they're going to split carries all year long, and that's the worst thing you can have is a committee. Dobbins should be in a little bit of a committee role, but he should get the lion's share of the work out of that backfield, but he's never carried the ball more than 20 times in a game. Elijah Mitchell has sneaky upside for me, so he might be one of my top targets here. But I need a good option as my number 1 runner. Zeke is probably going to be the guy if I have to pick somebody. Not saying I'm in love with any of those options. Now, this is the area for an elite tight end in Kyle Pitts. I just wonder about the number of catches he's going to have in that offense. In a PPR league, you got to be mindful of that. I know they're going to look for him a lot more than they did last year. And they don't really have much else to work with besides maybe Drake London. Cordero Patterson's going to be running it out of the backfield. But again, you're looking at Marcus Mariota and Desmond Ridder as your signal callers there for Atlanta. Not exactly inspiring a lot of optimism there. But Mariota does like to throw the ball to the tight end. Look at Jonnu Smith back in the days with the Tennessee Titans. So Kyle Pitts could be the option here if I don't like how the board falls as far as runners. Got 4 picks left here. Again, I still don't like Cam Akers. I'd rather have the backup, Darrell Henderson, later in the draft. Three picks left. If you're looking at my queue over here, there goes Zeke. He was probably my top running back left. There goes Mahomes. So if I was thinking about a quarterback, now the top two options at quarterback are gone. All right, so I think I'm probably going to go Pitts here just to lock up my tight end spot. I really don't like having running back this far down in my draft without having one elite runner. But the draft value just isn't there for me. I'm not in on Akers this year. I'm just that opposed to drafting him. This is a full 10 spots after his rank here on ESPN. He's going to go immediately after this to the auto pick. Just looking at his roster, he already has Eckler and Swift, Andrews on his roster. This would be his third top 30 running back off the board. But for me, I still don't have one, and I still don't want Cam Akers. That tells you how far out on Cam Akers I am. So, without further ado, Kyle Pitts, come on down. All right, now my next pick, I pretty much have to take a runner at this point. Dameon Pierce is probably my top running back, in my opinion, left. Just because I think he's going to be that special of a player. Elijah Mitchell is probably going to be one of my guys that I tried to target here along with Dobbins. I should get my pick of who I want out of this group because a lot of these teams went running back early. Got a few picks left until my spot here. Still got some runners and receivers coming up. There goes Lamar Jackson. Seeing a little bit of a run on quarterbacks, not much, but enough for you to at least be mindful of it as you get into the 6th round. Four picks left before me. Waddle's a very good receiving option, but I already have 3 elite receivers. So he would be on my bench every single week at this point, so I can't draft him. I need to get a starting running back. There goes Sutton and Judy. Back-to-back picks. I think both of them are going to have fantasy relevant years this year. A chance at top 15 for both of those guys. There goes Godwin and Johnson, and now we're starting to see a little bit of a run on receivers. Fine by me. All right. Looking at David Montgomery last year, I just want to see how his season ended up anyway. In games where he's given carries against bad teams, he did well. Against pretty much anybody else, not so much. He exceeded 20 points, 4 times last year? Not exactly what I'm looking for out of a number 1 running back. But at this late in the draft, you got to take what you got. I'd rather have Dobbins and the potential of having a full year of J.K. Dobbins out of that Baltimore backfield. So, but I think somebody's going to try to reach for Pierce here. And Dobbins could be available at my next pick. And Pierce to me is going to be the better runner out of the 2. I'm going to reach a little bit and take him. Make sure I lock up at least one running back I have faith in. It's really early in a draft for Pierce. But at this point, I got to take it just because I have that much faith in the player. If you have any questions about how your fantasy league's going, or if you want to draft right alongside us, send us your questions while you draft. We'll be having a couple of snake drafts. This is our first one, and then we'll do a salary cap draft. Maybe sandwiched in the middle. We'll see. Appreciate you guys spending some time with us, just watching some college football while we do a fantasy draft anyway. And here comes some more run on receivers here. Again, Mitchell is one of my top running backs this year. I just think the opportunity for him to take over that backfield in San Francisco is all reliant on him staying healthy, of course. But I like him more certainly than Josh Jacobs this year. If Dobbins is there at my next pick, he's probably my next pick, but starting to run a little thin here on picks. Got 6 draft picks between me and the next pick. There goes Dobbins. Alrighty. So Waddle's fallen a little bit here. Amon-Ra is there on the board. He was the number 2 receiver in fantasy last year over the final 5 weeks. But again, that was without T.J. Hockenson or DeAndre Swift in that lineup. Waddle, there he goes. That almost would have been tempting if he was there at pick 56. But right now, I think I'm probably leaning Elijah Mitchell. The pass catching ability of him out of the backfield as well, I like. I think I'm going to use him quite a bit out of that 49er backfield anyway. It's going to look a little bit different, that offense anyway. Two picks left. One. And I'm still not going to take Brandon Cooks. I just don't think that offense is going to support a fantasy receiver. I do like, for real football, Houston to be a much improved team this year. There goes Jacobs. Alrighty, and so I'll gladly take Elijah Mitchell here. Lock him up as my second running back, and now I'll have a little bit of run on running backs here as well. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a great option as a number 2 or 3 receiver. So is Gabe Davis. So for those of you who need a second or third receiver at this point in your draft, keep an eye out for those two. More players to avoid. Miles Sanders. He told you to avoid him. Why somebody's drafting Michael Thomas this early, I do not know. To me, he's a lottery ticket in the final pick in your draft, but he's never going to be there because people overdraft him thinking he's going to be decent. I just don't think it's there. And there goes Jalen Hurts, the quarterback I was kind of keeping my eye out for. But he goes there. Just to kind of keep an eye on where the quarterback market is. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 quarterbacks that you could legitimately start. Stafford would be a good backup option. I think if you're relying on him as a starter this year, that's a mistake. Now Trey Lance is my lottery ticket quarterback. I really do like him in almost every single team. You can check out my previous videos, Fantasy Draft Night 1, 2, 3, and now 4 here, as far as how I like to target Trey Lance in round 10 or 11. But right now, there's still too many good quarterbacks left on the board. I don't need to take one here at pick 65. Christian Kirk should be a target monster in that Jacksonville Jaguars offense. Now that I've got a couple of running backs, I still want to get another good running back out of that. And just looking at the options left, starting to get a little slim. Just want to check in on Singletary's numbers at the end of last year. He's going to have some competition in that backfield this year. That's pretty consistent averages for him towards the tail end of the season anyway. you can see the beginning of the season and the middle was just absolute garbage. Juju Smith-Schuster comes off the board there. Another receiver I like to target around 6'7", but I already have 3 elite receivers. I don't need to go after anybody in particular. I think CEH is going to have a great year with Kansas City. They're finally going to figure out how to work a normal offense and not rely on the home run. A.J. Dillon is one of my running backs I want to target, probably in round 9 or 10 as well. It's very difficult to get in because he's probably being drafted where he should be. Oh, and there goes my lottery ticket quarterback. Dang. I just want to look at his team real quick. We'll see that here in just a moment. Amon-Ra St. Brown might actually fall to me. He'd be a great 4th receiver. Appreciate you guys joining us. Make sure you hit that like button. Really does help us out. The more you guys subscribe and like the content, the more content I can put out for you guys. The more time I can put into it. Eventually, I'd like to do this full time for you guys. Again, if you're drafting tonight, send your questions our way. If you have any questions about a trade that's been proposed to you in your league, send them our way as well. See if we can help clear your mind a little bit. And there goes Amon-Ra St. Brown, as I expected. All right, so we're left with CEH, Singletary, or Dillon, honestly. Kirk is probably the best receiver on the board anyway, besides Allen Robinson. I do still need more depth at the running back spot, just because I went really heavy at receiver early. CEH, I think, is going to have the most consistent workload early in the season, but if he falters, he could fall really fast. I just want to see if there's any news on him lately. I mean, McKinnon is probably going to get more of the passing game work. I'm not in love with this option. I still might pick AJ, or would prefer AJ Dillon over CEH. But I do need running backs. Kirk is probably my next target if I go after this one. I gotta go for the workload of CEH. Until then, my next running back off the board is probably AJ Dillon. Alright, now I got my 3 running backs, 3 receivers. I got an elite tight end. In my opinion, the number 3 tight end in fantasy this year, behind Kelsey, and then Andrews number 2. Kittle, I think, is the clear number 4. Now we should see a little bit of a run on quarterbacks here over the next few picks. That's why I'm hoping Kirk falls to me with my next one, or Dillon. If Kirk is off the board, Dillon is very likely my pick. And then later running backs here, Hunt and Stevenson. But who knows, maybe Singletary will get all the way there. Raheem Mostert is another one of the running backs I like later in the draft. I think my receivers, though, I got 3 of the top 10 finishing receivers this year in fantasy. Jefferson, I think, is probably assured a top 2 or 3 spot. Debo, I think, is assured a top 5 to 8 spot. Higgins, I think, is a 8 to 10 is where he slots in this year. There goes Singletary. Not sure if Kirk will make it to me. There goes Robinson. Now, Kirk is by far the best receiver on the board. If you're taking Amari Cooper in your draft before round 9, you're insane. Now, as you get into the playoffs, he could be a great piece for you. So unless you have 3 elite receivers like I do, there's no point in taking him this early. Just so you can have his production in the postseason should one of your top options go down. But I really like Christian Kirk here as my number 4 receiver. My next pick is probably going to have to be a quarterback after this one, though. We're seeing a little bit of a run on tight ends. That's fine. I already got mine. Thank you guys for subscribing. Saw I got a couple of new ones. Appreciate that. Don't be afraid. Say hi in the chat. If you check out all the other videos, had quite a few people chat with us, so we have a very active community trying to build our football group as we get closer to the start of the season. So we originally started on in November of last year, just posting some long, 10-minute long YouTube videos originally, really starting our lives with baseball in April, and then really getting with it at the end of June, beginning of July. And so we've kind of grown this channel quite a bit over the last 3 or 4 months. All right, Christian Kirk to me is the best option on the board right now as far as receiver. I like Kareem Hunt a lot in this at this spot as well, along with Stevenson. But to me, Dillon has the clearer path to a workload. I think Green Bay is going to utilize him as a 1A and a 1A option, as their coach LaFleur said in the press conference. But for me, Christian Kirk and that workload, very good production, and he's bye week proof for me. Whenever the buys come around for my top end receivers, insulates me there. But now, even though I like Dillon and I like Hunt and I like Stevenson, I got to look at the quarterbacks because they're going to start to come off the board quickly here. I just wanted to look at Walburn's team again because they took Lance, they got Jones, Etienne, Godwin, Kupp, Kelsey, and they're counting on Thomas. He could be one of the guys that tries to snipe one of my guys away from me, but it looks like he's going to be an auto draft here. Kelsey and Kupp are elite at their spot, along with Jones. I like Lance. The rest of it, though, are question marks for me. Of course, for me, my running back spot is a question mark, honestly. I like Pierce as a number 2 running back. I don't like him as a number 1. But I'm counting on the elite receiving production at all 3 spots, receiver, and flex, to make up for not having a number 1 back. There goes Elijah Moore, just fine with those guys coming off the board. Just so you guys know where these quarterbacks rank to me, the best one on the board right now, in my opinion, Tom Brady, followed closely by Prescott, Rodgers, and Wilson in that order. I just think Brady's going to have top 5 security as far as points, just because I think they're going to utilize him as a short passing game to kind of make up their running back position. How'd I do in my redraft? Half point PPR. 12-man. Hurts, fantastic. Taylor, great. Barkley, steer clear of him. Absolutely. Do not want, don't touch with the 10-foot pole. Sutton, I think he's going to be very productive, possibly a top 15 receiver out of Denver. Marquise Brown, he's got a case of the drops. If they can click Kyler Murray and him because they have that pass connection, maybe it could work. Andrews, depending on how you picked him up. Michael Thomas, again, avoid with a 10-foot pole. Damian, if you got both of the New England running backs, how are you going to pick which one to start? And there goes Dylan. Dang it! Somebody was paying attention. Boyd, I'm not sure if you need a guy like Boyd this year. Now, if a guy like Higgins falls to injury, or if Chase, then yes, Boyd is going to be very fantasy relevant. Dotson, I don't think he's draftable, honestly. Pickens, I really like him as far as a future draft as well, or if you're in a keeper league. Jameson Williams, I'm guessing, out of Detroit Lions. You're counting on a lot for week 8 through the end of the season production because he's not going to be there out of the gates anyway for the Lions. Now with Dylan off the board, I may have to go running back here instead of quarterback like I wanted to. I do like Hunt and Stevenson, but they're all going to be in kind of a timeshare spot. There goes Prescott. Ugh. I can't do it. I gotta lock up my quarterback spot, so we'll go Brady here. There goes Harris as expected. We're going to see a little bit of a run on running backs now because that's where the board is. Hunt, Stevenson, Edmonds, Patterson, and Pollard. That group of running backs we're going to see next. I think you should have picked between the two running backs, Harris and Ramondre. I think you should definitely have picked Ramondre, though. Robinson, if ETN goes down, he's going to be fantastic. If he doesn't go down, I still think he's going to be a top 30, top 35 running back. But if you're counting on him for anything other than a bye week fill-in, I think you're wishing a little bit too much. But with a 12-man league, that's not a horrible lineup. I don't like a couple of your higher picks with Barkley, Michael Thomas. I'm guessing you drafted a little bit higher than I would have. There goes Edmonds. Goddard is gone. It's like Ohio State might actually be in trouble against Notre Dame. There goes Lockett. Oh, and there goes Hunt. Ramondre Stevenson's probably my favorite target right now as far as a running back at this point, with the way the board has fallen. Rashard Penny is also one of my options. I think Ramondre, though, is probably the guy I want. If he doesn't get there, we'll see. Now, my second lottery ticket quarterback is Joe Burrow. For those of you wondering, Trey Lance by far has top 5 potential at the position. I think Joe Burrow also has top 5 potential if what he did at the end of the season this past year is to be believed. Not sure it is. And this is about the spot for Burrow here. So if Stevenson is gone, then I'm probably going to go Burrow. If both are gone, then I've got to rethink how I want the next pick to go. Because I do want to have a good backup with Brady there. I mean, that offensive line is porous. We'll see if he can do what he did in New England and supplement a short passing game for a running attack. Quick 3-step, 5-step drops anyway. Wide receiver screens for a running game. And Ramondre is still there. Okay. Well then. A little bit surprised. He's going to get the pass catching work out of it. Sounds like Montgomery was a favorite for the role in the passing game work early on. But I think they would have rather have used the younger player anyway, Stevenson. So I'm going to go ahead and go with... I like the player, I just don't want to count on him. He's going to be gone by my next pick. Burrow's going to be gone by my next pick. Would I rather have a fourth running back on a team with a weak roster at running back, or would I rather have the last lottery ticket at quarterback in the draft? Oh. I think Raheem Mostert is probably my safety net here. If he wasn't available at this point, I probably wouldn't go Burrow. I'm just going to go with Burrow. I got to take a lottery ticket here at this point of the draft. If I can get a top 5 quarterback in Burrow, fantastic. If I don't, then at least got solid production in both Brady and Burrow. And I still got Penny on the board. Alrighty. Just looking at my roster, I got 4 bench spots available. I still need to at least use probably 3 of those on a running back and 1 on a receiver. I don't like to carry a backup tight end or a backup defense or anything like that. Only time you do that is when you're on bye weeks and you don't want to drop somebody. Leaving a draft with 2 defenses is a definite no in my opinion. Drafting a kicker this early is also a no. Don't do that. All right. We're up next here. I think Raheem Mostert is probably the guy I go for here, with Penny now being off the board. He's my safest running back left on the board. I think Mike McDaniels, the head coach there, is just really going to utilize him in that offense. Now, I think he's going to have more of a 2-back system there, but I still think once he sees how his offense works with him him in the backfield anyway, versus Chase Edmonds, I think that offense is just going to work much better because he already knows the offense coming over from the 49ers. This late in the draft, I'm looking at lottery tickets. And chances to be a number 1 back. Darrell Henderson is probably going to be one of my safest bets left at the running back spot. McKinnon, now that I have CEH on my roster, if McKinnon takes over the lead back role in that Kansas City offense, I may want to take a shot at him. But I don't think I'd draft him. I think the one running back I want is Darrell Henderson, so we'll see if I take him next. I don't need a quarterback anymore, so let's go to the flex spot. Garrett Wilson, we'll see how he does with the Jets. I'm not drafting him this year for that reason. I mean, he's got Joe Flacco and Zach Wilson for quarterbacks this year. Same thing for Chris Olave. He's working with Jameis Winston. And that New Orleans offense is going to be very difficult to figure out how they want to go about it as far as which receiver is going to get the hot hand. I think Olave ultimately will be the best receiver out of that team. But I think his value is really going to come in year 2 and 3 of his rookie deal. Alrighty, we are on the clock. Nobody here that I really want to take at receiver, so I still need to lock up my running backs room. And so I'm going to go ahead and draft Darrell Henderson. He's got a clear path to the number 2 work with the Rams, and I think he's got a chance to be a number 1 there. Especially if Akers can't regain his form from a couple of years ago. Last year, you saw how horrible he was in the postseason. They tried to force him the ball over and over and over again and couldn't muster 3 yards a carry. Henderson, meanwhile, 4.5 yards a carry. Now that I got my 5 running backs on my roster, I got 2 bench spots left. I want some of that Green Bay offense. Somebody's got to do something out of that offense. Rodgers is too good. Hearing really good things about Romeo Doubs, however you want to pronounce his name. George Pickens. We'll see how his workload does this year for Pittsburgh. Otherwise, if we don't see him perform very well in the beginning of the year, he could be an easy week 1 cut and try to pick up another running back who has a great week 1. And I'd rather have Romeo before George, so give me Romeo. I still have 3 elite receivers, so I don't need to go Pickens here. I just want to, just because I think there's a real chance he could be something. Running backs, there's not a lot left to choose from. Sounds like Brian Robinson isn't going to be able to make much of an impact, especially fantasy-wise. And I really don't have any faith in anybody this low on the board. So I'm not even going to bother. James Cook has an outside chance to be fantasy relevant this year if Singletary goes down. If not, don't count on it. Cook might just be an option here. But I still think I'm going to go with Pickens. Especially now with Cook being gone. There's nobody else I really want at that running back spot. Alrighty. And George Pickens will be the selection for me. Now, defense is probably going to be my next selection. I like to stream my defenses. Just looking at the NFL Week 1, you want to go for teams that have horrible offenses they're going to be going up against. Broncos defense, for instance, going against the Seahawks and Geno Smith. Saints going up against the Falcons. Ravens versus the Jets. I really like the 49ers defense this year. They're going up against the Bears. The Bills, by far, have the best defense, but both of those defenses are already gone. So just going with what's left on the board. Panthers defense is almost always there at the end, but it looks like somebody may have already drafted them. Yeah. Somebody drafted them. Interesting. Let's see, I got the Colts, Cowboys, Steelers. Any defense I really like? Colts going against the Texans. No. Okay, there's the Panthers. I don't have any faith in Jacoby Brissett. I think they'll have some decent success stopping the run anyway. But I'm more counting on the turnovers from Brissett. Low scoring affair, I expect. They're not exactly expected to score a lot of points the first week, but I have them a little bit higher in my ranks for at least week 1 anyway. Titans are at home against the Giants offense. That alone is tempting, although Daboll is a much better offensive mind than anything the Giants have had to work with for years. Titans defense, possibly. Dolphins are an interception machine anyway. They're going up against... I forget who they're going up against in week 1. Mac Jones, he doesn't turn over the ball, though. I think I'm probably going to end up going with either the Titans or Panthers. I think Panthers just because I think there's more ability there to turn over the ball. So I'll take the Panthers there. With Tucker on the board, I probably should have just taken my kicker. But that's okay. I still like McManus, probably for season-long fantasy. I usually stream my kicker, but I think McManus has a real chance to be a top 2 or 3 kicker this year. Once this draft is over, we'll kind of go over how this draft went and then restart another one. What do you guys want? Do you want to see another snake or a salary cap draft? Touchdown, Ohio State. They take the lead against Notre Dame for the first time. Wow. Alrighty, got a couple picks left here before my kicker. I know a lot of you guys don't really care about kickers, so let me know which one do you want to see me draft, a snake draft or a salary cap draft next. You guys can sign up for your own leagues as well. Draft right along with me, have a little bit of fun. There goes McManus. I don't want Tyler Bass this year. He gives you plenty of kicks, but he's not very accurate from deep. I mean, it is Buffalo. Greg Joseph's going to have a decent chance to make some kicks with the Vikings this year, but I want an offense a little bit better than that. I think Arizona's going to have some long kicks. Prater's fairly accurate, so at this point, it's probably Prater. I haven't drafted Nick Folk, but he always seems to be right around the top fantasy points. A very accurate kicker. Gets some decent chances from deep. Maybe Folk will be the guy. Yeah, why not? I'll go Nick Folk. I haven't drafted him in the league yet. Alrighty. One pick left till this one's done. As I mentioned, as soon as this one's over, we'll kind of check in on the draft, see how things went. There we go. Let's go to my team as they create the league room. There it is. So there's my roster. I went heavy at receiver early. Took 3 elite receivers with Jefferson, Samuel, and Higgins. Really like that bunch of talent there at receiver. Running back is the spot where I'm definitely weakest at, though. But I did get one running back, I think, as a surefire top 20 runner this year. In Pierce, I wanted the security of him versus going for a guy like Akers or Dobbins or somebody like that. Elijah Mitchell, if healthy, I think is going to be a top 20 running back as well. While I don't have a number 1 running back, I really like my ability to have at least a group of number 2 running backs available. CEH, I think, should have a lot better production this year, and I got a couple of good backup receivers on the back end with Christian Kirk as a bye week fill-in. A couple of good quarterbacks I think are solid top 10 options. Nobody that really lights the world on fire, though. I was really hoping to get Trey Lance or Jalen Hurts. That didn't happen. But as things happen, this is how it fell. And there's the back end of my roster. Took a couple of flyers on receivers just in case one of them hits. Maybe I could flip one of my top receivers for a top end running back. And then I'd really have something cooking if I have one of those guys hit. But alrighty. So that's that league. Which way would you guys like to see me go next time? Go ahead and join a league if you'd like. Draft along with us. Again, we're going to do Pro. We're going to do PPR. I kind of want to see if I can get one of those either 9 or 10 picks, or if I get the 1 or 2 pick. Salary cap drafts for me usually move fairly quickly after, say, the first hour, just because I usually have a lot of money left after that first hour. Alright, we'll go ahead and do a snake draft. I just want to see if I can get a top 3 pick or a bottom 3 pick, either way. There we go. And we are in our room. Welcome in, Helen. Oh, it's just a I'm just doing fantasy football leagues on ESPN right now, just joining random leagues. If you want to join a league and draft along with us, do so. That'd be fun. See if we can get who ends up with a better draft out of it. Last night the draft did not go very well for me. But I really like how the last one went. Got 3 elite receivers, a position I usually struggle with. Running backs, I like to draft running backs early. You wouldn't have known it from that last one, but I usually like to draft running backs just because, well, you get security in their production. But I've had a lot better luck getting fill-in running backs waiver wire running backs than I have had receivers. Receivers are just very difficult for me to be able to pinpoint which one's going to go off each week, especially when you get down to the 2 and 3 receivers on teams that don't have great offenses. 2 minutes left until this league drafts. All right. So did you get your or did you join a draft? Got 30 seconds here until this draft gets going. Just really hoping I don't get stuck in the middle yet again. It's a lot more difficult for me to find a good second round option. You're either reaching for somebody or getting an extreme value, and then it throws off the rest of your draft. As we saw last time, I got Jefferson right where he should be. I got Deebo Samuel, great value for where I had him, honestly, on my board. And then my third pick, the running backs that I wanted were all gone, so I went ahead and got another top 10 receiver in Higgins. Draft is open. Here we go. Let's see which pick I get. Finally, at least I'm in the top 3. Thank you. Highest I've been able to draft so far this year. And yes, I'm that guy in the draft who, if I get the number 1 pick, Jonathan Taylor, I'd immediately turn around and say, hey, anybody want him? See if I could turn him into a couple of second or third round choices. So just looking at the number 3 pick, I'm very likely to have either McCaffrey and then Cooper Kupp, Austin Eckler, or Justin Jefferson there. I think I'm going to probably go with Eckler just because I really like the value there. Just the way the board seems to look to me, at least, anyway. Last time I did draft in the top 4 at least. Running backs were plentiful. We'll see if that happens again. So maybe going receiver would be the better option. I don't know. Got about 45 seconds here before the draft begins. Notre Dame trying to drive here after the Ohio State touchdown. 14-10, number 2 versus number 5. Notre Dame's looked like the better defensive team anyway early in the game. Ohio State just hasn't had anything going really offensively, even though they're supposed to be the offensive juggernaut. They were 17-point favorites before the game started. Tyler Buckner, I guess is what you'd call him, sophomore, making his first start in college. There goes Taylor with the top pick. If McCaffrey's there, maybe I take McCaffrey, though. I just don't like the injury issues that he's had. There goes Cooper Kupp. Okay. So that leaves me with McCaffrey, Eckler, or Jefferson. If you don't like injury issues at running back, but you want an elite one, Eckler's your guy. If you want the best possible home run potential here in the first round, McCaffrey's your guy. And if you want the top receiver left on the board, that's Justin Jefferson. He's your guy. I do think that Minnesota's offense is going to be so much better. Eckler also has had some injuries here and there. I want to see if I get the running backs to fall my way in this draft. So I'm going to go ahead and take the elite receiver. All right. So looking around pick 17, the guy I'm really hoping is there. Besides Deebo Samuel, you're looking very likely at Javonte Williams, Travis Kelce. If I need somebody to fall to me, I really don't like anybody in this range as far as a lock pick for me. I'd still rather take Kelce. Aaron Jones, James Conner, T. Higgins, those type of players. Pretty much this entire group I really like except for Keenan Allen. In a salary cap league, that's kind of the group I try to go after. Let's see if we can get some running backs to fall our way. There goes Chase at number 7. Good pick for Team Johnson, getting great value. So far, everybody paying attention. Then, of course, your 10-11 pick will be your wraparound. Joker's probably picking between Cook, Adams, and Samuel here. Takes Adams. Probably means he takes Deebo. By far the best player left on the board, in my opinion. Followed by Diggs, Mixon, Swift, probably in that order. I'm avoiding CeeDee Lamb this year. I don't trust him in that offense this year. Cowboys offense should still be productive. I just don't know how productive. That's why I can't bank a second round pick on an offensive piece that might only get me 15, 13 points a game. Not this early in the draft, anyway. Really? Let one of those two receivers fall to me, please. If not, I'll gladly take probably Kelce first, just to make sure I lock up the position, having an elite tight end. Connor probably would be my next option. And then Aaron Jones, just because I want to get a surefire running back this time around. But it'd probably be Samuels, Diggs, Kelce, and then Connor Yes, I like Connor a little bit more than Swift this year. I like the red zone work he's going to get. Really hoping we don't have an auto pick here. Thankfully, no. 3 picks left. I doubt Samuel makes it to me, but if he does, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. There goes Kelsey. 2 picks left. I seriously doubt Debo gets to me. Just hoping we have a Cowboys fan out of the next 2 picks that takes Lamb, and I'm hoping somebody wants a running back and takes Swift, and then maybe, just maybe, Debo gets to me. Otherwise, I think he's gone. He's by far the best piece left. There goes Fournette. Maybe. Will I get lucky? This will be a fantastic get if Deebo Samuel falls this far. Then maybe I really should have taken one of those top running backs, an Eckler or McCaffrey, with my top pick. But wow, Deebo Samuel falls to me. Thank you very much. I'll take the easy 300 fantasy points. Now my next pick is clearly James Conner. We're going to have an auto draft, so that means Andrews and Swift are going off the board. That's fine. Nick Chubb, a little bit of a reach there, but I like the pick. I'm going to end up with one of my 2 runners here in Conner or Jones. Even though I really like T. Higgins, I can't take him this early, especially now that I've locked up my 2 receivers just like in the last draft. But again, I wanted to have the chance to have a better running back, and so far, we got 3 of them on the board. Josh Allen, wow. I don't know what Team Johnson's doing, but they're doing it a little bit differently. Got to remember that for next time. All right, Javonte Williams should have a monster year in Denver. I don't think he's going to be better than James Conner, though. Conner, to me, is going to be the best fantasy running back out of this group. Jones has a potential, with the pass-catching work, to be even more prevalent. Let's see how his work was last year. He had 1 40-point game, a couple 20-burgers, and then solid fantasy production out of that. Got to figure he's going to be a little bit higher than that. Let's look at Conner's production last year. Couple of 20-burgers. When he gets 20 carries, looks like he gets over 20 points, and he's going to easily get 20 carries a game. So Conner is my pick for sure. No chance one of these runners falls to me in the next round. There goes Conner already. So let's go ahead and scroll down a little bit just to get an idea of what the land's going to look like when we get down there. Kyle Pitts is definitely the best tight end left on the board. I like the opportunity to get him on yet another team. Waddle's a very good option here, DJ Moore, but I don't expect them to be available. Got at least another 12 picks between me and the next pick. T. Higgins is not going to make it to my next pick either, as much as I would have liked him to. Looks like we're going to have an auto draft here because this guy's not in the actual room. If you guys are drafting right now, let me know how your draft's going. If you have questions about your league, a trade that you want to propose, another trade that was made to you, sleepers, etc. Looks like so far everybody's going pretty much chalk except for Team Johnson. Heck of a run there by Ohio State. They're now in the red zone, looking to go up by 2 scores. 11 picks still between me and my next pick. This is going to take a while, it looks like. So we're looking easily 3 picks gone, so we're probably looking after Pittman for sure. Maybe even McLaurin. I don't really want either of those 2 players anyway. So Waddle is probably the best receiver left when I finally come around. Pitts is going to be there. Zeke. Nobody else really pops off the chart except maybe Mahomes, and I'm not going to go that high. There goes Cam Akers. Thank you for taking him. I still need another good back. Dameon Pierce. I already told you guys earlier how much I like his potential this year. Really like the way my team's going so far. There goes Mahomes, Higgins, Evans. Got 6 picks left before my next one. Somebody's a little bit of a Chiefs fan, getting Mahomes and CEH. Got to remember that in case I want Juju in the next couple picks. Ohio State gets the touchdown. Montgomery's off the board. That's just fine. No way DJ Moore makes it to me. There is an auto pick in between. And I don't have interest in Pittman this year, Brown, or McLaurin. Oh! Pitts was taken. He was going to probably be my next pick. If DJ Moore falls to me... Nope, there he goes. Waddle's still available. Zeke's still available. Just want to see how many points he's scheduled to make this year. 180 for Pierce. Okay, so it comes down to Waddle, Elliott, Etienne, Judy, Dobbins, and Pierce. I think it's still a round too early for Dameon Pierce. I'm going to see if I can hold off here. Should I go ahead and lock up a good tight end or a good flex here with Waddle? Or should I take Elliott? Last year, his production, he still had decent games. I'm not sure about if he's going to get enough carries. So I'm going to go ahead and take Waddle. Now this guy likes to reach a little bit. We'll see which way he reaches this time. As long as he stays away from Pierce, I'm happy. Got a couple of auto drafts now with us. If you can keep him as an auto draft, you can make a more predictable draft for yourself. Get the pieces you want. There goes Elliott. Thank you for taking him off the board for me, so I'm not tempted to take him. Etienne is off the board, another piece I would have had interest in. Fine. Alright, now I have to pretty much lock up another running back here. And who do I want it to be? There's a couple good receivers I could choose between as well. Herbert is still on the board. I'm steering away from Williams and Cook and Hall and Brown and Metcalf this year. I like Jerry Jeudy, but I already have 3 receivers. I'd rather have Amon-Ra St. Brown anyway. It's going to be Dobbins. I just really rather have Pierce at this spot as well. I'm going to see if I can get by not drafting Pierce yet. Dobbins, I think, is probably the easiest path to a big workload. And it kind of gives me a safe floor of at least 10 points a game, honestly. Not great production, especially out of a number 2, but I got to do it. Got to play smart, and just in case Dobbins finally gets over 20 carries in a game in a run-happy offense, maybe they'll finally give him a chance to be a number 1 back. So far, so good. There goes the two receivers out of Denver, both of which I think have an outside chance to be top 15 receivers, depending on how good Russell Wilson is with Denver, or is the Russell Wilson that we saw at the end with the Seahawks the new Russell Wilson? Saw him last night at the U.S. Open, watching Serena's final match there. Ten picks left. There goes Herbert. All right. Just fine with Jacobs and Williams coming off the board, and Waller. All fine with that. Dotson in a second for Thomas and an 8th. Two keeper PPR. Neither team, honestly. I mean, Dotson, I suppose, just because it's a future. But I just don't like Michael Thomas pretty much in his career going forward. I would avoid him pretty much at all costs. So give me the other. Give me Dotson. I don't think Thomas is going to be fantasy relevant anymore. I think he has a chance to score 100 fantasy points, but you want a whole lot more if you're drafting Michael Thomas. I think his position or his ability to stay with the Saints is in question as well. I can just see, or after week 4, week 5, he gets into it with the coaching staff yet again. Has an injury to his ankle. That is a very unstable ankle, by the way. Got 4 picks till me. Uh-oh. Somebody's reaching for running backs. Damian Harris. I gotta lock up Pierce at this point. I can't lose him. He's my surefire guy I really like as my number 2 back this year. So I gotta watch. Yikes. Aaron Rodgers goes early. There's still a couple of good quarterbacks left on the board. Hurts is probably my favorite quarterback left in this draft. There goes Lamar Jackson. So I may go Hurts with my second pick here. But I'm pretty sure I'm just going to go ahead and take Pierce with my next pick. Mitchell has an outside chance to, if he's taken by Fields, to be my next pick. We'll see. And Ohio State has pretty much won it now after sacking Notre Dame. 11-point game, 4.5 minutes left. It's basically over. Church. Oh, and there goes Jalen Hurts. Well, give me Dameon Pierce. There goes Metcalf, Godwin, Murray. All the quarterbacks left are all going to be reaches outside of maybe Trey Lance. He's the one guy that could probably shoot up the draft board for everybody else. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a very solid pick here. I already have 3 receivers. I have 3 running backs. There's 3 great options here for me. I like all 3 of them. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Gabe Davis, and Elijah Mitchell. I have 2 elite receivers with an outside chance at a third. I have 1 elite runner with probably a couple of top 20, 25 guys in Dobbins and Pierce. Better home run chance, though, is Amon-Ra. So, I think I'm going to take him. They're projecting a little bit of a regression in him this year. I mean, just look at those fantasy points last year. The receptions, the target share. But then look earlier in the year. Very inconsistent. Ugh. Yeah, give me him. I'm banking a lot on the end of last year just to see if he built up more of a rapport with Jared Goff. That way it's a little bit more consistent. Now, am I expecting 20 points a game? No. If he was expected to get 20 points a game, he'd be a top 3, top 4 round receiver. Here we are in round 7 and people are passing him up. Now, Elijah Mitchell I'd really like, but there's no way he makes it to the next pick for me. Probably should have gone with Mitchell just because I don't think there's going to be a runner there for me at the next pick. Might have to go quarterback with my next option as well as tight end, as tight ends are now flying off the board. If there's a tight end left that I like, I might. Goddard, Ertz, maybe Ertz. Although Ertz may miss week 1. Yikes. He hasn't practiced since about a month ago with a calf injury. I think I'm probably going to steer away from the tight ends at least until later in the draft. I don't think any of them are worth the draft pick at this point. I need more of a surefire option. There goes Prescott and Mitchell and Davis, all guys I like. Cooper, that's fine. Kirk's probably the best piece along with Juju at this point. Allen Robinson, all three of those are great options at receiver. At running back, you still got Hunt, Stevenson. As far as options, there goes Burrow. Probably going to have to go quarterback here with my next pick. I might have to double dip. We'll see how the quarterbacks fall up until that point. Probably going to take Lance first and then go Brady. That's kind of the stack I like this year if you don't end up with Jalen Hurts as your top quarterback. Lance has the most value left on the board. There goes Schuster. I already have 4 good receivers. I do need to lock up my quarterback, so it's probably going to be Lance here and then Brady. I do want to look at Team Johnson. He already has Josh Allen. I want to look at the auto draft as well. He's got Murray. So I don't think he's going to draft a quarterback. But I'm going to go ahead and take Lance anyway, just because I want the home run potential on my roster this year. He's not going to be my starter week 1. That'll be Tom Brady. If I get him. If I don't, then it might be Wilson or Stafford. Go ahead and cue Brady there. I doubt Brady's the quarterback left by my next pick, so I pretty much have to take him here, even though the top 2 options on the board I think are elite receivers left at this point in this draft. Probably the last 2 of very good options anyway. And there they both go to the auto. So that pretty much locks up Brady for me. There we go. Alright. Very happy with my roster so far. I'd like to get a couple more running backs here. Other than that, very happy with where I'm at. Pierce is definitely going to be substituted in there for Dobbins for week 1. Looks like Ohio State is putting the finishing touches on their win. Just running out the clock now. It's 21-10 over Notre Dame. Number 2 beats number 5. But this was definitely a good performance by Notre Dame, though. And the game is over. Ohio State gets off on the right foot with a win. Not necessarily the offensive juggernaut we all thought Ohio State was going to be. They struggled for much of this game, but a lot of that is how good Notre Dame plays on defense. They tried to target one of the weaker cornerbacks early in the game and found a little bit of success. Notre Dame shifted their defensive abilities around so that wouldn't happen again, and Ohio State failed to counter that for about 2 quarters. And then finally, late in the third quarter anyway, they found their stride offensively. All right, we got 6 picks left until mine. I do like Hunt, Stevenson as well, but again, I'm not going to pick those guys, I don't believe. A.J. Dillon is probably the best running back left, and I'm going to probably take him next. DeAndre Hopkins has an outside chance to be a top 20 receiver, even with missing 6 weeks. I think the running backs left on the board in Hunt and Ramondre Stevenson are going to keep people away from Dillon, so I would be very happy to have him as my 4th runner. If you can get A.J. Dillon as your 4th running back, you're doing good. I think he has a chance to be a top 20 running back this year, especially if Green Bay is honest in how they're actually going to use him this year, viewing him and Aaron Jones as very interchangeable in that offense. Maybe split one of them out wide every now and again. And A.J. Dillon actually does catch a fair amount of balls. We didn't expect that last year, but he actually caught, I think, 40 balls last year. I think you could expect something in the neighborhood of 50 this year. Got a couple of picks left here. Got some running backs still on the board. Could see a run on them. Raheem Mostert's the other running back I really like left in this draft, along with Darrell Henderson, if I can find him. I think he's around 211, 213. I was close. All right. There goes Russell Wilson. There goes Kareem Hunt. That's fine. Somebody's going to want Stevenson here in the next couple of picks. I like Edmonds, but I'd rather have Raheem Mostert more. I still need a tight end. I'm probably gonna have to stream the tight end spot. There's not too many guys left that I like. And I get A.J. Dillon. All right. Dawson Knox goes off the board. He has a chance to be a top 10 tight end this year. Ertz might miss week 1, which is probably why I'm going to steer clear of him here. Otherwise, he might be the guy I go after. Gesicki has an outside chance to be a top 10 guy, especially after the Dolphins turned down trade requests for him. They're saying he's a solid tight end 2 at this point, though. I don't know if I want to go tight end here. Ertz is probably the best guy left on the board by a mile. Hopkins, Penny, Raheem Mostert, That's kind of where I'm thinking next. Tony Pollard as well. How did they use him at the end of last year? Not much. I think I have to go Ertz. Just because he's so much better than the other tight ends left on the board. And then I may have to leave myself some wiggle room at the back end of my roster. I still have 3 bench spots available. Even though Ertz might miss week 1, I might have to put him on IR and then pick up a guy. We'll see what I end up doing there. But Ertz should be a fringe top 10 tight end anyway. Penny's probably the best runner left on the board at this point, along with Mostart. And then we get to the really long shots, the Romeo Dubes and that kind of thing. There we go. Don't be afraid to use your queue. Makes it a lot easier. That way you don't miss your guys that you want late in your draft. You notice I picked a lot of reaches anyway for pieces that I really like. Like Dameon Pierce was a little bit of a reach. Lance was a little bit of a reach. Dylan was a little bit of reach. But I like all 3 of those pieces a lot more than other teams might. I think they have real chance to be of real value this year. Steer clear of that Giants offense, even though with Daboll there it should be better. You just can't know which way they're going to go, at least for the first few weeks. Pickens goes early. There you go. For those of you wondering how late can you go before you have to worry about quarterback, the last good quarterback left, in my mind anyway, just left the board in Matthew Stafford. He has an outside chance to be a top 10 quarterback. I think everybody else is bye-week fill-in or injury fill-ins as well. Carr and Cousins being the best of that bunch. Nobody else here should be drafted anyway. Now, as we get closer to week 10, 11, 12, then you could probably pick up Deshaun Watson and put him on the end of your bench just to have him for the playoffs. But you got to remember, you're going to eat up a roster spot, so you don't necessarily want to draft him this early. In fact, I don't think you should draft him at all. I think he's more of a waiver wire pickup. Waiting for these auto drafts to get done. Probably not going to draft another tight end. I think I'll go waiver wire if Ertz is unavailable for week 1. Melvin Gordon, a piece that you might want to keep an eye on if he's there really late. I still think it's early for pieces like that. I think you want to go for more lottery tickets at this point in your draft to round out your bench. For instance, for me, Raheem Mostart probably was that guy for me as far as running backs. But where I'm at in this draft, I want to make sure I lock up Dubes. So I'm going to go ahead and take him because he's the last wide receiver I like. So now I got my 5 receivers. I'm good. For those of you wondering, I like to keep about 5 receivers, 6 running backs, a couple of quarterbacks, and just 1 tight end, defense, and kicker. Don't be the guy that drafts Jameson Williams. Sorry, don't do it. There's no point. There goes Rashad Penny. That means that I'm going to go Raheem Mostart, and then my final bench spot's likely to go to Darrell Henderson. If you'll notice, most of my drafts, I also pretty much take Raheem Mostart in almost every single league. He just has that type of potential to be a #1 running back when healthy and when given the opportunity. And he's with a coach that he's worked with before and likes to run the ball. Just a matter of whether or not he's going to get the bulk of the carries or if Edmonds really chips away at him. I still think it's more of a complete timeshare in Miami. But I think if one running back you want to have out of that backfield, it's Raheem Mostart, just because he's got the ability to be a #1 back in that type of a system. Now with the draft kind of winding down, want to keep an eye on where everything's at. The Bills' defense was taken earlier this draft. Don't be the guy that takes defense early. Wait on it and wait on it and wait on it some more. I think the 49ers defense, the Ravens defense all have potential this year. Packers defense should be much better as well because they're going to run the ball a lot. They're going to use the short passing game. Cole Kmet comes off the board. That's fine. There goes Julio Jones. Somebody's taken a lot of chances on their roster in this draft. Mecole Hardman. A lot of these pieces have real chances, but they're all wild cards. I guess that's why he calls his team the Wild Jokers. Trying to get this draft to wind up here. Here we go. Finally, we're getting moving. I think I'm gonna. Well, is Tucker already gone? I guess so. With Tucker gone, my defense, I think that 49ers defense has a real chance to be a great defense this year. It's against the Bears offense, I believe, in week one. They are on the road. They could make a statement. I think I'll go ahead and take the defense here. My next pick will probably be Henderson. McManus I really like as a kicker. Packers defense coming off the board. Derek Carr, another bye week fill-in option coming off the board. Cousins is off the board. There's an interesting name there, KJ Osborne. I'm curious to see how the Minnesota Vikings are going to deploy him after bringing in Jalen Reagor. Do they split time as the 3 receiver, or will we see Osborne still stick as that number 3 receiver in that offense? All right, I'm going to go ahead and take Henderson. Locks up my bench. A lot of auto drafts now make it a lot easier. Finally, they're starting to fly off the board again. McManus is probably my number 1 kicker left, then Folk, then Prater. Come on, people. It's the final round. Draft your kicker. Let's go. Hayden Hurst is now in Cincinnati. Okay. It's been a while since you might have heard that name. He's a good tight end to kind of keep an eye out for. When he was with Baltimore, he was very good. And then moved on to Atlanta before they drafted Pitts. He was the tight end you wanted on that team, fantasy-wise. Now with Pitts there, his production fell off. Then he went to Cincinnati, of course. Their tight end, Uzamoa, I forget how to pronounce his name, moved on to the Jets. He's now the number 1 tight end, I believe, in that Bengals offense. He would have been one of my possibilities for a week 1 fill-in. McManus is gone. Folk is gone, so that leaves me with Prater. And I'll take Prater. No need to make that longer than it had to be. Come on, Johnson, let's go. Alrighty. I think we're going to stop after this draft here, but we'll kind of go over the teams that we made. Tomorrow we will do a salary cap league. I know we've already done one of those, but I want to do a second one with a different type of draft strategy this time, just to see how it goes. Invest a little bit more in the high-end players available, just to see how things go. My usual strategy is always try to wait people out. I don't like paying premium prices for premium players. I like to have a nice stockpile of value at the end. Just waiting for the end of this draft to finish up. I don't know why this person didn't just select auto draft so people could go to their draft room afterward. The one change I'm going to make to my lineup, of course, is moving Dobbins out of the starting lineup, putting Pierce in, putting Lance on the bench, and putting Brady in. There we go. Now you can kind of see how this draft went for me. I took Jefferson with the number 3 pick, even with McCaffrey and Eckler both being on the board. Probably that might hurt me a little bit down the road, but I really like my receiving core now. I struggle finding good receivers later on in drafts, or at least finding successful ones for that season. I always find the good 8 to 12 point guys, but I never find that one lottery ticket every year that everybody else seems to find. So I wanted to get some surefire top end wide receiver talent. Deebo Samuel fell to me in that second round. Towards the end of that second round, absolutely stunned he was there. In my opinion, he's the best player available of the players expected to be there in round 2. So I was shocked he was there at my pick. And then to turn around in round 3 and get James Conner, I was very happy with that. To me, he's a top 10 running back this year. His goal line work should be fantastic, that kind of a thing. Now, of course, now that I made the top 2 selections to be wide receivers and then Conner, I had to come back around, and there wasn't really anybody available again, so I went with Waddle at the wide receiver spot. He's going to be a PPR monster this year, even with Tyreek Hill, Gesicki still being there, bringing in Cedric Wilson. I think he's still going to be the focal point of that passing attack with Tua Tagovailoa. I think the connection he's built with him through college and in the pros is undeniable, and so I think he's still going to catch you 8 to 10 balls a game. So that tells you probably he's going to get between 12 and 15 targets a game. Now, would I like to see the yards per catch go up? Absolutely. I'm tired of seeing 3 yards and a pile of dust. I want to see some yards after the catch, and hopefully bringing in Tyreek Hill to kind of space out that defense. Maybe we could see Waddle have a little bit more success this year, but I think he still has an upside of a top 10 running back or a top 10 wide receiver. I think he's more likely to be a 15 to 20 guy though. But in either event, I'm very happy with the flex spot. Then I came back around with Dobbins. I wanted to draft Dameon Pierce there, but I think Dameon Pierce is a lock to be a running back 2 this year. Thanks, Charles. Appreciate you joining us. We'll be live tomorrow. We'll do a live baseball game tomorrow for those of you who joined us when we were doing all our baseball coverage this season. Kind of keep going with the season on that, and then we'll do some more fantasy drafts for you guys tomorrow as well. So keep it tuned here. I'm not sure which baseball game we'll do, but let me know which game you guys would like to see. But as I mentioned, I want to go ahead and make this switch. I don't trust J.K. Dobbins yet, mainly because of the injury. I've never seen him carry over 20 carries in a game. Would like to see that before I actually put him in my lineup and forget about it. But I like Dameon Pierce just because I think he is going to get 20 carries a game in that offense, especially after they cut Marlon Mack. Now he's still there on the practice squad, so maybe if Marlon Mack continues to impress in practice, he may be signed to the active roster eventually. The other move I'm making is I'm moving Trey Lance out, and I'm putting Tom Brady into my starting lineup. Dallas, of course, didn't make a lot of changes on their defensive side of the ball. They lost Randy Gregory. They brought in a number of different rotation-type pieces there. But Brady, I think, is going to use that short passing game and is going to rack up the completions and the yardage against the Cowboys. The Cowboys' their defensive motto has always been to bend, not break. They give up all kinds of yardage between the 20s. Then they start to actually play a little bit better as they get closer to the red zone. Not always the best path for success. If you're a Cowboys fan, you already know this. But they got Micah Parsons there. They got Trayvon Diggs anyway at the corner spot. So we'll see how good Micah Parsons is in year 2. But Tom Brady, I think I'm going to start week 1 instead of Trey Lance. The one guy I want to keep an eye on this year is A.J. Dillon on my roster. If you can get him as your 4th running back this year, I think you're pure gold. If you're counting on him to be your number 2 running back this year, you done messed up. I think he has a chance to be a number 2 running back this year. I think he's very likely to be one if everything is to be believed out of Green Bay, that they're going to kind of interchange Jones and Dillon. Not necessarily just as far as running backs, but as pass catchers as well. That's where the real value comes in. I think they're going to split Aaron Jones out wide as a pass catcher early on in the season, and they're going to allow them both to be on the field at the exact same time. And so that's where I think A.J. Dillon can really show his value on that team and carve out a role for him in the season, or for a full season. Now, as far as my receivers, I got 3 very good receivers in Jefferson, Samuel, and Waddle already. I came back around and I got Amon-Ra St. Brown. He was the number 2 fantasy receiver over the final 5 weeks of the season, but again, that was without Hawkinson and Swift. I still think he developed something there with Goff, especially over the offseason. Jameson Williams is going to miss time at the beginning of the season. Swift is going to be back, but I'm wondering how much workload they're going to give him. And I think that the Detroit Lions should be a much better offense than most people expect anyway. And so I still think he has top 20 upside anyway and should be a great fill-in receiver. You can see in week 1 he's projected to get 13.9 points. That's more than they expect Jalen Waddle to get, and I think Jalen Waddle is seriously being undervalued against the New England Patriots. I think the New England Patriots are going to try to take away one piece. That's what Bill Belichick always tries to do. I think they're going to try to take away Tyreek Hill and say, make anybody else try to beat us, and I think that strategy is going to get them this time. That secondary with the Patriots has had a lot of turnover this offseason, making some surprising cuts in that secondary, and so I think that's going to hurt them against a team like the Dolphins, who have some great weapons on the outside, 3 great receivers to throw at you, a couple of good running backs, and a solid tight end. That Miami weapon, or the weapons Miami has, are formidable for any team. The question is, can Tua get the ball to him? And so I'm still going to count on Jalen Waddle. Now, of course, my tight end, Zach Ertz, may miss week 1, so he probably will go on IR on my roster. Don't let that be a deterrent. If he's just going to miss 1 week, that's okay. I can fill in with somebody else from the on the waiver wire, and that's fine for 1 week. Usually I try to get one of the top tight ends available in Kelsey, in Pitts, in Kittle, but in lieu of that happening, I wait on my tight end. I don't care if I don't have a projected top 10 fantasy tight end, but as I got later in the draft, I saw there was really nobody else available, and then I also saw there was nobody else available that I was interested in picking when I finally picked up my tight end in Zach Ertz. But thank you guys for watching with us tonight. You can check out our Fantasy Night 1, 2, 3, and 4 now on YouTube. Make sure you hit that subscribe button here on YouTube. It really does help us out. Gained a few of you guys during our live tonight. Really appreciate that. David, thank you for subscribing. I know you hit that subscribe button today. Really appreciate that. Thank you very much. And for those of you who haven't hit that subscribe button, please do. It really does help us to try to create more of this content. I'd like to try to do this full time for you guys, bring you anything from the NFL, MLB, NBA, and the NHL, and try to keep you updated on everything that's happening and try to look for that next step in the sports storyline as well. But covering a little bit of fantasy while we wait for the season to get underway. Again, tomorrow we'll be doing some live baseball for you, and again, doing some fantasy drafts as well. We'll have a couple of different lives in addition to that. But thank you guys for joining us. Hope you guys have a great Labor Day weekend, and we'll see you guys tomorrow night. And thank you guys again for joining. And make sure you hit that like and subscribe. Follow us on Twitter at UpsideSN, and make sure you subscribe here on YouTube. Thank you guys, and y'all have a great evening.